Hi Nina, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me on, Danny.
So we have worked together for a few years. We first met back in 2021 through partnering, but I've never had a chance to ask you about your business. I wanted to know, how did you get started? What were you doing before you started your business?
I My corporate career was in Time Life Books. I worked in the London office. I was a marketing director. And then after, I became pregnant with my first child, Emily, and I decided to leave work completely because in those days there was no opportunity to job share or do part time. It was all or nothing. So I left and then I had more children. So I was out of work for 10 years. And back in 2005, I set up my own business. It was my first online business. It was a personal shopping business. I was, I didn't know what I didn't know at that point. So I would
Mm.
just say yes to anything and everything. And because I kept saying yes and then figuring out how to do it. So, for example, my business was London based. I had personal shoppers and makeup artists in London. One day, someone called me and said, "Do you offer this in Manchester?" And I said, "Yes." I didn't have anyone in Manchester, but I knew I could find a way of getting, a business going up there as well. So it rapidly grew and became a nationwide business fairly quickly. And this was really interesting because I wasn't doing a lot of marketing. All my marketing was Google Ads. In those days, they were fairly inexpensive. And the reason I needed Google Ads was because I was terrified of putting myself out there. I didn't have my name, I didn't have my a photo on the website. Everything was almost done anonymously. And one day I booked a really nice corporate gig with a big accountancy firm in London. And they hired me to lay on a pampering evening for their senior female staff and their senior female clients. I took along a team of 20 personal stylists, makeup artists, manicurists, etc. And this was a really great opportunity for me because I thought what I'll do once everyone's set up, I'll then go and talk to the senior managers and see if I can get any more gigs booked in. But as I started walking towards them, suddenly something inside me said, "Stop." It was almost like danger, danger. And I said, if you go and talk to them, they're going to realize you're not good enough. They're going to see all the flaws inside of you. They're going to see there's something wrong in you because that's how I saw myself.
Mm.
And they're going to wonder why they ever hired you. So I did a quick left turn and I found this semi dark office. And I sat there for the rest of the evening until I was sure that the senior staff and the clients had all left. It was safe for me to creep out of the office. And on the way home on the train, I remember looking at my reflection in the window. It was a dark November night. And I thought, you have stuffed up again. You keep doing this. You keep missing on opportunities that are handed to you on a plate. It cannot go on like this. You know, when you have that moment where you think something's got to change and you make a real commitment to yourself that you're going to do something about it this time. I
Mm.
decided I was going to fix myself. I don't care what it took, how long it took, what I had to spend on it, but I was going to find out what was that little bit that was missing inside of me that everyone else seemed to have, what there was that was wrong with me. And I went down a long journey of personal development. There were so many different modalities out there, techniques, methods. I tried probably over 30 trainings, webinars, in-house seminars, weekends, whatever it took, books, etc. And my mission was very clear. I wanted to find a way to permanently change myself. Temporary change was no good to me. And eventually I came across a coach in America, and he said, the only reason you feel like this about yourself is because you believe all the limiting beliefs are true about you. And he showed me how to dissolve them. And because I created this space in my subconscious where these beliefs had been, suddenly there was a space for me to plant new intentional beliefs about I'm good enough, I can do this, I've got what it takes, I deserve it, I'm smart enough, all this stuff. And because I started feeling like this, my marketing changed. I became more visible. I started making videos. I went on social media. I was really keen to get out there and tell people what I did. I put up my prices. I started booking big corporate clients like Goldman Sachs and Sky because I realized I was as good as them.
Mm.
I wasn't inferior anymore. And that was like, shaking off all the shackles. And
Yeah.
as I did all this, obviously my profit grew logically without me having to work any harder. And that's when I realized, oh, there's a direct link between my mindset and my profit. That's interesting. And at that point, I fell out of love with my personal shopping business because now I was thinking, oh, I could show other entrepreneurs how to create a mindset that gives them confidence and self belief, helps them to think big, take risks, put themselves out there in a bigger way, and grow their profits. So that's what I've been doing since then.
Wow. And was that your first coach?
I tried other coaches along the way,
Right.
but none of them gave me the the change I was seeking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew it was just a matter of time. I knew it was just working my way through coaches until I found the one who could help me. So it was just like a numbers game for me.
Yeah. And you were completely by yourself until that point.
Yes, I was a solopreneur.
Yeah.
I've been a solopreneur ever since.
Yeah.
I love being a solopreneur, but I also love having a network of
Yeah.
people who I can support, who can support me back. We create relationships because being a solopreneur can be very lonely. And
Yeah.
when you're very lonely and isolated, then the dark thinking can come in. Oh,
Yeah.
it's really tough. It's hard. Picking yourself back up after you've had a no or a string of no's, or you put an offer out there and it hasn't worked. It's really easy to talk yourself into doom and gloom and wondering why other people are having this great business and why you haven't got it going for you. What is wrong with you? Having a network of people you can talk to and sort of realizing that everyone's having a roller coaster in their business. They're all having these feelings that go up and down. They're trying things that don't always work. And getting behind the scenes of their business and seeing all of this can be very reassuring that you're not the only one going through this on your own.
So tell me a bit about your network that you've built that's helped you to overcome your limiting beliefs. I'm sure it's more than just a coach, and I do classify as a coach as a partner because they are essentially they're your guide through this.
Yeah, the guides, the accountability partner, they're the objective voice that can see things that you can't see. So it's obviously hugely helpful. And without great coaches, I wouldn't be where I am today. So my network is interesting because when I first started, offering my services to entrepreneurs, I thought I could do it on my own at that point. I created a website and I just thought I can just do this because I ran a successful personal shopping business. So I'll just apply the same stuff here. But it was very, very different. And at that point, I didn't, I'd kind of lost, well, I don't know what I'm doing, therefore I'm just doing it. By
Yeah.
then I was more savvy and I didn't make the progress I wanted to make. And then one day I got an email from my previous coach, Rob, who'd helped me to build my personal shopping business. He was a business coach, and he just sent me an email. Hi, how are you? It's been a while. It'd been a few years since we'd last spoken, and I emailed him back and I said, can we have a chat because I've got this new business. He didn't know about my new business, and I just love to, just get some ideas from you because I knew that he was a successful business coach. And so we got on a call and he said, I really like what you're doing, helping entrepreneurs, maximize their mindset to make more profit. He said, what about doing this? You give me a complimentary session, help me to dissolve a limiting belief I have because I know that I feel stuck. In my business, I've got inconsistent months up and down, and I really want to get consistent, sustainable profit, but also grow it substantially. So, and he said, if I get a result working with you, then I'll share you with my community. So I said, great. And we worked together. We had a coaching session. And I remember that his limiting belief was, I don't matter. And this was a really strong limiting belief. And the reason it was stopping him was because if he didn't matter, he was always putting other people before him and not putting his business at the forefront.
Mm.
So he dissolved that limiting belief with my help and installed a new powerful belief in its place. I do matter. Of course, I matter. And I can help people. I've got a lot of value. And he said the month after that, his income went up by 30%. And then the month after that, it went up another whopping 30 or 40%. And then he hired me for a whole year and he hit 7 figures. This
Wow.
was a huge goal for him. And he did it by fixing his mindset because it was sabotaging him and now it was supporting him in his goals. So there was a huge difference in his confidence, his resilience. He was just doing that extra to bring in more clients. So, for example, he said I'd send out mailings, and then before he sort of said, "Okay, I can do more, but I'll just stop now." Now he's thinking I can do more, and he was excited to send out more mailings. Those extra mailings were bringing in more clients, so his business was just growing. He then wrote an email to his list saying, I've got this great mindset coach, Nina. This is how she's helped me to grow my business, and I'd love you to be able to work with her. And we put out a low cost coaching offer to his list. And I suddenly got all these clients. Because when someone endorses you to their list, as you know, you're the master of this, it's a really warm introduction. And then because his list trusted him, they trusted who he was recommending to them. And therefore, there was that level of trust in me already before they'd even met me. And that's how my coaching business kicked off.
It's such an obvious thing to do as a partnership to actually go to your clients and say, you had a great experience with me. Would you be interested in sharing this with your clients? I'm running a webinar. I mean, it sounds like though what made this work was that there was a structure. Like you had something, an offer that this person was able to present to their audience. Um,
Yes. And the other thing that was there was because Rob and I had known each other for a while, I completely trusted him.
hmm,
And he completely trusted me. So
yeah,
he had to experience the quality of my work before he could share me with his audience.
yeah,
And all of that worked really, really well together. So it is about building, as you know so well. I mean, I'm talking to the person who knows this, who teaches this. It is about building a relationship.
yeah,
I would never have gone to him and say, hey, can we just, do this? I give you a free session and then you recommend me to
yeah.
your list. There had to be some relationship and trust building first. So he felt comfortable working with me because when you're doing mindset coaching, you really are delving into people's thinking in a very deep way, going into
Yeah.
all the corners of their thinking. So all of that, I think, is very, very important.
Yeah, yeah. I think something you did that was really valuable was that there was a specific thing you asked him to promote. Very often people say, "Yes, I like this idea of getting my clients to refer me," but they do something very, very loose, as in like if you know someone, tell them about me. And actually, I think what you've just described is that if you want your clients to help you, you've got to be directive. You've got to be specific. Like,
Yes.
I would like to meet either I'm running a workshop. Would you like to share this with your audience? Or like, I'm looking to meet these types of people. Who do you know in your audience? That who you're currently working with who might be a fit. If you don't actually guide your clients on how exactly you want them to help, if you just say to them, "I'm looking for clients, please think about me, please mention me to people," nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. Because the vaguer you are, the vaguer your
Yeah,
potential referrer is going to be.
yeah.
And it just doesn't work because people want it to be easy. You've got to make it really easy for people.
Exactly, exactly. I regularly have people I meet who I say to them, "How can I help you?" And they go, "Well, I'm looking for people who want to sell their business, or I'm looking for." I don't necessarily know someone who's just about to sell their business. Like you got to, you got to be more specific. Like, who are you looking for? How are they looking for help? Who might I know that might be connected to those people? Like, very, very, you've got to give people structure, and that's fantastic. And I'd love to know. So tell me a bit more about like along your entrepreneurial journey. Where else did you kind of look for? Where else did partners come into play to help you?
I remember when I was working with coaches and consultants, loved working with them. And then I decided to start working with financial advisors as well.
Mm.
I didn't really know any financial advisors. So I sent out an email to all my people, my network, my online network, and I said, I'd love to meet some financial advisors, do some research calls with them to find out their biggest challenges, etc. Do you know any financial advisors you could connect me with? And one guy replied, Michael, and he said, I've just interviewed a financial advisor on my podcast and I'll connect you with him. So he connected me with a financial advisor called Dan. And Dan and I got on a call. Dan said, I don't need your coaching services right now, but what I do need is your help in creating a mindset training for my clients. So what Dan did, he was giving sales and marketing training to financial advisors to help them to grow their businesses. And he said, well, some of them get distracted. They don't finish the training. They come to a difficult part and they just disappear. They procrastinate. They make up all sorts of reasons why they don't implement the training. And therefore, they don't get the results that they could be getting. And he said, I know it's their mindset that's getting in their way. So I created a mindset training, which he paid me for, obviously, which he clipped onto the beginning of his training. So they had to go through my mindset training to get their thinking in the right place, then to take full advantage of his course. And it worked brilliantly. And then on the back of that, he and I co-authored a book, Renegade Mindset, a financial advice guide to a peak performance mindset. So all of that came through me just reaching out to my network and saying, could you connect me to this type of person? And I was specific about, what I was going to, why I wanted to speak to this type of person. And they responded. And through that, we've had a budding relationship and a friendship, obviously a great business relationship. And he supports me completely. He connects me. I've got clients, working with him. And I give him all the support I can as well. And it's such a lovely way to work
Yeah.
together. And it's a complete win-win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like a perfect scenario where one of you is upstream, one of you is downstream. So uh, they need to work with you first in order to and then you're able to then direct them to him. It's
Absolutely. Yes. And it's complementary. So if you can find someone who's got complementary service to you, who has a market of your ideal clients, those clients, some of them will need what you have
yeah,
to
yeah.
get past their
Again,
challenge.
again, there is structure. There is structure. So you will again, you will meet people, for example, like an accountant, a financial advisor, where they'll both say, if you know people, can you refer me? One of the big frustrations I saw early in my journey was I used to go to networking meetings and people used to stand up and talk about referrals they were looking for. And I think very often what happens there is when you think of a referral and it happens to be in the right place at the right time, you refer someone. But what you've done is you've created a structure with someone where I work with you on something, and then when we finish working on this challenge, I then want to pass you over to this person. You put structure there, and I think that's where many entrepreneurs make a mistake with their partnership. They just say to their partner, I work with these people and I'll refer them to you. And but you only really when you actually have to create an agreement with someone on a program you create together, where you're both very mindful about where you both come in. And I think that's why that works so beautifully. And then I'd love to hear about podcasts because I think that's another partnership that you're quite involved in.
Yes, I have my own podcast. It's called The Wealthy Advisor Mindset. I am a firm believer that if you can guest on other people's podcasts, you have so many advantages. The host is endorsing you. You are being given a very warm welcome to their community. You're sharing your expertise as the guest on the podcast. You can then direct them to a free gift, which can get them on your email list. So you're offering so much value and being given this amazing opportunity to get in front of your ideal clients. I have got clients by being a guest on people's podcasts.
Yeah.
And that, and it's such a wonderful way of doing it because, I just roll up to a podcast, share the stuff I love talking about. The host is doing all the work of getting the podcast ready, putting it out, sharing it. They send me a link so I can share it with my community. So my community can again see my expertise. It's a great, great way of getting in front of your ideal audience through a partnership. I have a podcast, so I strategically now look at guests who also have a podcast because then we could do a swap
Yeah.
if it's a good fit. It's not always a good fit. Sometimes I'll interview people, but I'm not right for their audience. That's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. But I would say 80% of the time, we're able to do podcast swaps. And it's a brilliant, brilliant JV tool, which I think is probably not used as much as it could be.
Yeah.
And to get on people's podcast, you don't have to have your own podcast. You can just show up and give great value.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a fantastic way to sell because you're not the whole premise of the podcast is you're there to that you're being interviewed, but you're the interviewer is very intrigued about your journey, about your insights, about your guidance that you give during the discussion, which then can often open up a sales conversation because there's something you talked about and that gives them a light bulb moment and thinks, so yes, wow, that's something I've struggled with. I need to talk to you about that.
Exactly. And hearing your voice, or maybe even seeing you if it's a video, you sort of become familiar to them. So when they speak to you, they don't feel like they're speaking to a stranger. And it doesn't feel cold
Yeah.
connection. It feels much warmer than that.
Yeah, and I think it's probably also it's just a much more comfortable way to sell. I think podcasts are great for people who a lot of people feel very uncomfortable having to go out and prospect and hit call people and reach out to people and guesting, and it gives you a way to talk to a lot of people without feeling like you're selling to people because they're
Exactly.
asking you. You're sort of having to offer up what you do. They're asking you, and it's
There's a
much
big
more.
difference there.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So to all of those who are listening, my big question for you is like, if someone wants to kind of make more out of partnerships, what would be your kind of number one piece of advice?
I would email my network
Yeah,
and say something like, it's been a while, love to have a chat with you to discuss how we can support each other
yeah,
and just see what comes up from there. The other thing I would do is look at podcasts that have your ideal audience and do a reach out to them because podcasts are always looking for great guests. I put out one podcast episode a week, and everyone I interview, I say, do you know anyone who would be a great fit for my show? So people are always looking for guests. So those are the two things I would do.
yeah. I think what you said there also is that sometimes people might struggle about where to find their first partner, but once they found the right place, it just gets easier and easier, doesn't it? Because each person you partner with will then know other people similar to themselves. And so it becomes less and less daunting.
And
Uh,
we could be very shy about saying to people, well, let's discuss how we can support each other, because you may think, well, I don't have much to offer and I'll be taking from them, but what can I give back? But that's not true. You have a skill set. You could coach each other. You could, you know, there are a million ways of supporting each other. So really know your value in that conversation and be ask. If you don't ask, you don't get in this world.
exactly, exactly. And I think the other thing you've touched on is that when you're looking for help, the obvious place to start is the people who know you the most, your own audience.
Yeah. And that's how I got introduced to Dan Caprill, who's become a really great strategic partner for me.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Now, if our audience, if we'd like to find out more about you, where can we go?
I have a scorecard. It's called the Millionaire Mindset Mastery Scorecard. And the reason I created the scorecard is because often people will say, well, I know I've got limiting beliefs, but I just don't know what they are. How do I find them? And so on this scorecard, I've listed the limiting beliefs around money and success that come up most often. Things like it's really hard to make enough money, or it's really hard to be as successful as I want to be, or I'll never have what I want. I'm not good enough, all that stuff. So I've listed the top limiting beliefs in those two areas. And you can take the scorecard, it just takes a few minutes, and then you score yourself on these beliefs, and you'll get a very accurate picture of exactly how you're stopping yourself from making more money and being more successful.
Oh, what a great tool. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Nina, for sharing. And thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a fascinating listening to your story.
Thank you, Danny.